Allegiance, and tonight that's going to be led by students from Oak Hill School. So if they'll come forward, and if everyone please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
These are students from the Beta Club at Oak Hill. We appreciate y'all being here with us this evening and doing that part in our agenda. Next item is the approval of the agenda, which the board has had an opportunity to review. Do I hear a motion we approve the agenda as has been presented?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes. Next item is the approval of the minutes. On October the 12th, we had our regular board meeting, and we also went into closed session for a short period of time, and the board has had an opportunity to review those minutes. So do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes of the regular session and the closed session on October the 12th?
I move that we approve the minutes from October 12th, regular session and closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes there. Next, we had our fall work session on October 26th at High Brighton High School, and they did a great job there. They always provide us with wonderful hospitality, as they do at the other schools as well. But we certainly had a great time at High Brighton High School, and the board has had an opportunity to review the minutes from our fall work session. Do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes from our fall work session of October 26th?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes for the October 26th work session at High Brighton High School.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. After our fall work session, we went into a community board meeting in the auditorium there at High Brighton High School, and the board has had an opportunity to review those minutes. Do I hear a motion we approve the minutes of our community board meeting at High Brighton?
I'll move that we approve the the meetings at the community board meeting on October the 26th.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes. Thank you very much. Next, we have public comment, and as of 4:30 this afternoon, we had not received any public comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I might have a point of personal privilege, I just wanted to give a shout out to the wind ensemble from South Caldwell High School, who were invited to perform this morning at the North Carolina Music Educators Convention in Winston-Salem. I got to be there and hear them, and they did an absolutely fabulous job. They showed off their musical talents and certainly represented our school system very, very well. And so this is the program that they gave out this morning, and I know some of you probably have connections with young people at South Caldwell and in the music program, and we just celebrate the wonderful music programs across our county. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Darcy. Certainly, we are very proud of the arts in our county and the music programs. Next on the agenda, and certainly this is the part we enjoy, and we know that a good many of you are here for our honors and recognition. The board's going to move down here, and we're going to give out awards to these people and certificates, and shake their hands and take some pictures. And I want to call on Mrs. Libby Brown, our Community Relations Director, to lead this in this.
Good evening, Chairman Pennell and Vice Chairman Knight and board members and Dr. Stone. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you to our crowd for braving the weather tonight and coming out in this wet, rainy weather that we've had. So we weren't sure if anyone would turn up tonight. So thank you for being here. This is a great turnout. We start with one of our favorite items on honors and recognition, and that is our Education Center Art Gallery. And we just enjoy recognizing the artists within our school district, and those artist pieces will be on display for the entire month of November. So please come back, not just this evening, but you're welcome back throughout the month to come and adore your children's artwork, because we sure do that on a daily basis. So thank you for sharing that with us. We'd like to recognize each of these students, and we're going to start with Gamewell Elementary School. And Perry Sadegi is the art teacher, and Charmin Frizzell is the principal. So we're going to start with our second grader from Gamewell Elementary School, Natalie Clark. So I'm not sure if she is here. Natalie's here. Okay. Very pretty, and thank you to Kathy Chandler, the superintendent's administrative assistant, who's going to do the slideshow for us so you can see it on both sides. Jasmine Everson, and Jasmine is a third grader at Gamewell Elementary School. No, Jasmine isn't here this evening. Jasmine is here this evening, yes. Ms. Frizzell, I think she got the memo. And then we have Mia Green. Mia is a fifth grader at Gamewell Elementary School. So Mia, oh, well, good turnout from Gamewell. Okay, we'll do another one. Granite Falls Elementary School. Millie Hefner is the art teacher, and Chris Green is principal. Claire Etzkorn, and Claire is a kindergarten student. Now, she had a little farther distance, so I know Mr. Green is here. Oh, wonderful. Come back. And Gia Patel. Gia is also a kindergarten student. Gia Patel. Okay. And we have, just stay up here with us. We're going to get your picture. We're going to let all the parents come up and take pictures. Holland Weisner. And Holland is a first grader. Ball game. Yeah, we've been trumped by a ball game. Okay. So would you like to do one more school? Okay, let's bring all these in the center.
Ladies, come to me. All keep smiling. Hang on. One more. Great job. Great job.
Okay, we have Hudson Elementary School next, and Emily Eisenhower is here this evening. She's the art teacher, and Adam Windmiller is principal. Our first student from Hudson Elementary School is Aaron Hatton. So Aaron Hatton, first grade. Aaron here? And we have Kaylin Swanson. Kaylin's a third grader. and Caleb Toon, kindergarten student. Beautiful artwork. And from Lower Creek Elementary, we have Stephanie Woody Grichelle. Stephanie is the art teacher, and Leanne Fry is principal. Armando Noria Gomez. Armando is a second grader. Carrie Ann Hawkins, and Carrie is a kindergarten student. Yes, here's Carrie. And Jamel Witherspoon. And Jamel is here with his grandmother, and he's a 5th grader. Jamel Witherspoon. And we have one more school, and that will wrap up our 15. So you guys are very special to have one of 15. Valmead Elementary School, and Stephanie Woody Grichelle is also the art teacher at Valmead, and Carol Sturgis is principal. Matthew Barkhausen, and so Matthew here to see? Yes. Hannah Benedict. Hannah is also a 5th grader. And Braden Green. Braden is also a 5th grader. So we had 3 5th graders from Valmead. So now you can come up, parents, and have a photo moment with your child here with the Board of Education.
Don't go anywhere. We've got one more. This gentleman in purple's got to come up.
Yeah.
So it'll be on our webpage.
We're going to put it on our website. Yes. What a handsome group. And again, congratulations to our budding artists here in the Caldwell County Schools, and parents, feel free to come back anytime and take more pictures of your children's artwork. We're going to turn to a school at this time, and this is the 2nd consecutive year that the Caldwell Early College High School reached 100% graduation rate. An accomplishment that the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction recognized during a special luncheon held recently in Raleigh. 11 school districts and 60 high schools were honored by State Superintendent June Atkinson for having the highest 4-year cohort graduation rates among all districts and schools in the state in the year 2014-2015. The Caldwell County School System was included in this wonderful celebration, and we had Dr. Stone there representing the school district, and Candace Hageman, principal of Early College High School, representing the school district, and I think Kim Burns was able to go. So Miss Burns from the Early College was also there. We're very proud of this accomplishment. We've worked many, many years, and that's always been as a top priority of graduating all of our students. So we do have one high school in the county with 100%, and the school district is almost 91%, the highest ever recorded in Caldwell County. So this is a great night to celebrate graduation rates right here in our own county. So Candace Hageman if you'd like to come forward, and I think you have some people with you. I know. No, Miss Burns, go on up.
Early college staff over here.
And I know Keith. Was it in there? I don't think so. Was it? And they were awarded a beautiful plaque at the ceremony in Raleigh. So they're going to hang that plaque at their school, and we're giving them a nice certificate of recognition from the Caldwell County Board of Education.
All right. Space out. And the official photographer is County Commissioner Michael Gray. They know people in high places.
That's right.
One more.
Thank you. Thank you. We're also going to recognize a few other schools, and this is for the North Carolina Positive Behavior Intervention and Support, or as we call it here and most everyone else in Caldwell County, PBIS. It is a school-wide program that demonstrates the ability to work together productively, the use of school data to implement research-based practices, and development of supportive systems to teach all students new behaviors. This evening, 5 schools will be honored for their successful involvement and consistent approach to working with students, parents, and staff members through PBIS. Keith Hyman, I'm going to call him up. We're going to start with Keith because Keith is the coordinator for the school district, and he is also our middle school director, but Keith works very closely with the schools as they progress through the phases of PBIS. So Keith, you and I will tag team.
You're doing great. You just keep rolling.
We'll start with Hudson Middle School. They began their implementation of PBIS last school year in 2014-2015 and will be recognized as a green ribbon recipient. You've heard that phrase over the years as the other schools have gone through this at a statewide ceremony for its successful launch of PBIS. So congratulations to Hudson Middle School, Julian Knight, the principal there, the HMS PBIS team. I don't know, Julia, if you have any team members with you this evening? Okay. Okay, that explains it. And Keith, you wanted to mention some of the schools too that are working on it that they may see next year.
Correct. We'll have Sawmills Elementary School actually began with their implementation this year. They spent all of last year putting it together. This year, our 2 schools that are working for implementation next August will be Valmead Elementary School and also Lower Creek Elementary School. So at that point in time, we'll have 8 of our schools in the district as PBIS schools. Very fortunate.
Yes, we are very fortunate because they're seeing such success with the PBIS. Our second school here this evening is Baton Elementary School, and the principal is Jason T. Teller. And Baton is in its 4th year of PBIS, and they will be recognized at the state as a behavior support model school. And Jason, I'm not sure if you have any of your team members here. None? Okay. Okay. So if you want to get, the next phase is exemplar. Do you want to do these 2? Let's do them all together. Okay. The highest level is an exemplar school. So it's the North Carolina Exemplar School. And we congratulate 3 of our schools now in this category. Davenport A+ School, and Kelly Smith is here. She's principal. This is their 4th year, so they're starting on their 4th year. And this is their 2nd year of exemplar status and PBIS. And then Gamewell Elementary School, they are here this evening. Charmin Frizzell, principal, if she wants to come forward. And Charmin is in her 2nd year of exemplar status with PBIS. And this is also the beginning of her 4th year of PBIS. And Tracy Harris is here, Charmin's assistant principal. Oh, my crew is there. And Travis Gillespie. Travis, I didn't mean to overlook you.
He thought he was
should've
getting
jumped
off the
in.
hook.
And I have to. Please come up. Who is this? Go ahead, you can announce. Courtney Saunders and Lynette Shelby, also of Davenport A+ School, very proud to be here this evening. Okay. And then Gamewell Middle School, and I really want you to hear this because they started PBIS in our county. And this was, okay. Yes, Gamewell Middle, they are the rock of PBIS because they started this program in the county in 2007 and they became an exemplar school in 2009. And they really are referred to as a model school throughout North Carolina for PBIS. And they get calls and questions and people recommend them to contact this school for assistance. And Brian Hill is the chairman of PBIS at Gamewell Middle School and has been since its beginning. Yeah, come on up, Carly. And of course, Anna Crook is now leading the school at Gamewell Middle School and very excited and proud to have PBIS within her midst. And Keith, anything else that you want to share about PBIS?
I'd just say that we look forward to supporting these schools as they continue with the initiative. And the one thing that we're noticing at this point in time is just consistency, not only throughout these schools, but also in the district with the expectations that we ask for our students and staff as they work with children. So it's a wonderful program. I'm glad that everyone's buying into it. Okay?
All right, we got to spread
So
out.
let's
Brian, you
give them all a
probably
round
get
of
You have to put Anna and Charmin together.
Who do we need to move?
Yes, look for this photo on the web and other places.
Ms. Crook, if you'll just step closer to Charmin.
Everyone else can sit down except Charmin and Anna. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you, Keith. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We have one more special recognition, and I'm going to turn the podium over to Mr. Gray Shear. And Gray is the Director of Community Relations for Blue Ridge Electric.
Should we make her come up and shake hands right there? Come on up, Amy. All right, Amy Bradley is receiving an award from Blue Ridge Electric for being the highest number of winning Bright Ideas grants in Caldwell County. She did not win this year. Tomorrow, y'all are coming to our office tomorrow. All right, we're awarding $4,700 to 5 different grants. I think we've got some winners here behind me of the coming. But we want to single out Amy Bradley at the Patterson School for being a very consistent applicant and the highest number of winners we've ever had in Caldwell County. And I haven't checked the other districts, but I don't think anybody's come that close to her number. She's got 6 different awards with us, not including the foundation grant that Joe had something to do with. But we would like to present her with this plaque. She also received recognition at a UNC football game this year. She was recognized there, and there's an ad campaign based around the co-ops of North Carolina, and she received 1 week's worth of advertising all about her award. So this is for you. Here we go. And the award says that Amy Bradley is the Tar Heel Teacher of the Week, and there's only 26 of them in North Carolina, and she's the one from Caldwell County. Okay.
Great, thank y'all.
Gray, we truly do appreciate all you and Blue Ridge Electric does. It's wonderful. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you need to go for dinner, or looks like a lot of our students have left, but now would be the appropriate time. But we appreciate you being here, and everybody have a great day off for Veterans Day and a happy Thanksgiving.
Bye, Hannah.
Okay. Okay, we're going to continue on with the agenda here. And next on the agenda is our superintendent, Dr. Steve Stone.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to defer to Tim Hawkins, who is the chairman for the Finance Committee.
Certainly, thank you. It's my pleasure right now to introduce to you Robert Brown with Boggs, Crump and Brown, PA, and they will be presenting our audit report for 2014 and 2015, and then at the end I'll have a couple of comments, and I'll also open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening. Chairman panel, members of the board, Dr. Stone. As Tim said, my name is Robert Brown. I am from the accounting firm Boggs, Crump and Brown, and I am here tonight to present the results of our audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015. Tonight, as I have in the past, I will generally focus on the 4 auditors' reports, which includes the independent auditor's report, which provides our opinion on the financial statements, and the 3 single audit reports, which relate to our consideration of internal control over financial reporting and compliance and internal control over major federal and state programs. I won't go into so much detail in the financial section, as we did present that to the Finance Committee in detail last week. The first thing I'd like to go over is on page 1, is the independent auditor's report. The first paragraph states that we have audited the governmental activities, the business activities, and each major fund of the board, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the board. The second paragraph states what management's responsibility is for the financial statements, which includes the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The third paragraph states the auditor's responsibility, which is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. And at the top of page 2, on the next page, that is where we express our opinion on the financial statements. And that states, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the board. In other words, we issued an unqualified or unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which basically means that we as auditors feel the board followed all accounting rules appropriately, and that the financial statements are a materially accurate representation of the board's financial condition. Any questions so far?
So just to put it in layman's terms for some of those that may be here, that's a clean report, correct?
That's a clean report. Yes. The next thing I want to talk about, as I said, it would be the single audit reports on page, starting on page 69, towards the back of the report. Starting on page 69, this is the first of the three single audit reports. This report relates to our consideration of our internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. If you'll go to the last paragraph on that page, it states that during our audit we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that we consider to be material weaknesses. In other words, no reportable weaknesses were noted as it relates to internal control over financial reporting. And then on page 70, the section on compliance and other matters, first paragraph, last sentence states that the results of our test disclose no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported. Any questions so far?
If you're keeping score, Lex, that's two good, clean reports.
So we'll go to the next report on page 71. Page 71 relates to compliance applicable to each major federal program and internal control over compliance for each major federal program. And on page 72, we provide our opinion at the top of the page. In our opinion, the Board of Education complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements for each major federal program. If you will look at the second paragraph on page 72, under other matters, there was one instance of noncompliance that we were required to report, but it's important to note that our opinion on each major federal program was not modified with respect to this matter. In other words, it is not considered to be a material enough finding to modify our opinion on federal programs. And then if you look in the middle of that page, page 72, report on the internal control over compliance, we did not identify any deficiency as it relates to your major federal programs. So that's your federal compliance report. Any questions? You'll turn to page 74. 74, this report is basically the same as the previous report, except it relates to each major state program that we audited. Top of page 75. In our opinion, the Board of Education complied in all material respects with the compliance requirements for each major state program. If you will look at the next paragraph on page 75, under other matters, there was one instance of noncompliance that we were required to report, but again, it is important to note that our opinion on each major state program is not modified with respect to this matter. In other words, same as the federal program, we didn't consider it material enough to modify our opinion on major state programs.
As a point of clarification too, those two non-compliance instances, both of those have been corrected already, correct?
That is correct. Subsequent to year end, those have been corrected. Certainly, I would encourage each of the board members to read through these reports, as I've only, went through excerpts of the report. They're quite voluminous, so there's a lot of information you probably need to read through. I won't read through the report itself at this time. If you turn to page 77 and 78, just for the board's information, at the bottom of page 77 is a listing of the major federal programs that we audited as major for the fiscal year end June 30, 15. Page 78, about midway through, there's the state program that we audited as major for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2015. Also on page 78 and 79, you will see a summary of the findings that I discussed for the federal and state programs there for your review. So in between these audit reports that I've discussed on pages 7 through 68, I know there's a lot of information there. There are the financial statements and the footnotes for your review. Certainly, I believe if you review these statements, you will find that the board continues to be in good financial condition with the governmental funds, which include your general fund and the capital outlay fund, and the proprietary funds, which include the food service fund and the child care fund, all showed increases in fund balance for the year. So that's certainly good news. Any questions?
So you would say, in your personal opinion, that Caldwell County Schools is in a healthy financial position?
Yes, sir. They're certainly in a healthy position, and this is continuing that trend over the prior years into to this year. So we've certainly seen in the prior years they've certainly been increasing their financial condition.
Any questions?
And just of note too, that there's good stewardship of our money by the finance department and the finance committee of the board. So I think that's important to note, that we have a very hardworking finance department.
Kind of in closing, I would like to thank David and his finance staff for being patient with us and providing us with all the information we asked for in a timely manner. As I know, the audit process is a timely process and time consuming. And without their help, we wouldn't be able to complete the audit in a timely manner. So I certainly want to thank them for their efforts this year, and everyone else. It's not just the finance; the whole board contributes to the audit process. And thank you to the board for allowing us to provide the service.
If you'd extend our thanks to the other partners too, we appreciate that.
Okay, certainly will. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. We truly appreciate that. We need to vote on this. Do I hear a motion that we approve the audit report that Mr. Brown has prepared, he and his accounting firm? Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Audit Finance Committee, I make the motion that we approve the audit report as has been presented.
Second.
And a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Lex would like to see a big story soon. Want the community to know we're good stewards of their dollars. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next item under the superintendent's part is a status update, and I'll ask Vicki and Helena if they'll come forward. And back in July, Caldwell County Schools assumed the NCPK program from Smart Start, and since we've been administering that program, Helena's got a lot to do with that and has really been very helpful in making sure this is a quality program. So I'd like for her and Vicki to kind of give us an update on Caldwell County, preschool in Caldwell County.
Chairman Pennell, members of the board, and Dr. Stone, it's our pleasure to present to you the update for Caldwell County Preschool. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm passionate about preschool. And we'd like to share some things as to why it is so important. I know that this has been around for now several years, but there are only 2,000 days between the time a baby is born and when the child shows up for the first day of kindergarten. That's an amazing statistic, and it has actually been an initiative through the North Carolina Early Childhood Foundation Initiative. But what is even more, I think, a good statistic for us to keep in mind is that when a baby's born, 70% of the brain is actually formed. But by the time they're 5 years old, it's built up to 95%. So that window of opportunity is so important for us in that first 2,000 days, and that's why we have continued to grow our preschool program in Caldwell County. We've actually gone from 5 classrooms to 15 classrooms in the last few years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But there is a gentleman by the name of Jack Shonkoff, and he did a study. He's a neuroscientist at Harvard University, and he says brains are built, not born. And so the sooner we can bring them into the preschool, the better off they are. There's another study that was done on December 14th, and the report was the economics of early childhood investments. And it's from the Office of the President of the United States. And for every $1 that is invested in preschool, there's a rate of return of $8.60, which is significant. But some of the statistics that came out of that report show that students that attended preschool had a 50% higher income than the children who did not. 23% more of them were homeowners, and 63% of them were less likely to be imprisoned. They also had a lower teen pregnancy rate and a lower substance abuse rate, all things that we have been concerned about in Caldwell County and can make a difference. There was a second study that was done, conducted by the Duke University Preschool and Special Education. And I'm sorry, but for some reason the figures aren't showing up as well as I would like for them to, but I'm going to talk through it. This study was done from 1990 until 2013. And the first arrow, in the middle of that arrow, it says 32%. That's a significant number because it reduces the odds of a third grade special education placement. Why that's important is that special education students are they take twice the funds to educate as a regular ed student. So when we're looking at cost cutting and we're looking at over-identification of students, it may just be because they were at risk and they didn't have that early opportunity to be in a school. And the second one is a 3.47% decrease in special education placements for every $100 that is spent through NCPK. And NCPK is the part that is for at-risk students in the community. So those are some big factors that I just wanted to actually give you a little bit of information that why it's so important and why we continue to grow in Caldwell County. But I'd like to turn this over to Helena because I don't think a lot of you have had the opportunity to actually get to meet her as much, and she's been such a great addition to Caldwell County Schools preschool staff, and she is the program coordinator. So I'm going to turn this over to Helena Van Horn.
Chairman Pennell, members of the board, Dr. Stone. This, as Dr. Stone said, is the first year that Caldwell County Schools has been the contract administrator for the state for NCPK. The first slide I'm going to share is a year-end review for last year. In our county, there were 186 children that were served through the program. Of those 186, 14 were replacements, because children moved out of the county or they left the program for some reason. At the end of the year, we had 82 children still waiting on a classroom placement. And on the graph, I'm not sure if you can see the colors, the largest on both of those is red, and those are the children who were in no kind of program. They were at home or they were with grandma. They were considered by the state unserved. The next highest on both the placed and the waiting list is blue, and those are children who were in programs that were not considered high quality by the state. The green were children who were already in a program that was considered high quality but still met at-risk factors. Moving forward to this year, we have 11 sites across the county with 15 classrooms. We have 3 community sites, and those daycare centers must meet the same requirements that the school system classrooms meet. We have in Granite Falls, Countryside Child Care, and in Lenoir, Creative Beginnings of Lenoir, and Northside Children's Learning Center, which is Head Start. The school system sites are Bayton, Kings Creek, Dudley Shoals, and we added a second classroom this year at Dudley Shoals. We added Sawmills as a site with 2 classrooms. We have Gamewell Elementary, Hudson Elementary, Valmead, and Whitnall. This year we were also fortunate. We feel like in our county we are underfunded for preschool opportunities for our population. And this year we were given an expansion award after the budget was approved. We started out with a little more than $660,000. Dr. Stone wrote a letter and followed up with some phone discussions with Raleigh, and we were able to get an additional $111,000, bringing our total to $804,136, which is recurring funding now. So that's something we can count on. To put it into perspective, however, Burke County, who is our near mirror image in population and poverty, receives $1.8 million. Moving forward this year, right now with the money that we started the year with, as well as the expansion money and some other sources of funding we have 227 children placed. Last year we had 186. We have 30 on our waiting list, which is a significant decrease from the 86. We do continue taking applications throughout the year because children hear about the program through other people attending, their families here, grandma hears. So we will continue to place children as funds come available to provide that opportunity for children who are at risk. This is a graph showing those children who are funded through NCPK, one of our funding streams. These are the at-risk children. The largest piece of that pie are families who are at or below the federal poverty level. That's significant to understand because those are families who have no household income. So 3/4 of the children who are being served in our county fall in that category. The next biggest piece are the families that are 131 to 185% of the state median income level. Again, this is extreme poverty. These are children who have multiple at-risk factors, not just poverty. The other smaller pieces do come up some, but again, not to the level that we really want our economic situation for families to look like. This year, one of our collaborative partners, Caldwell County Smart Start, has given us $30,000 in the program. That's provided an additional 6 slots to help us get children off of the waiting list. And we appreciate so much that opportunity with them because, again, at the end of the year, we had a large waiting list. Right now, our waiting list is still there, which we don't want to see, but we're very happy to receive that. Thank you.
And I think it's important to note, too, that the more we work down that wait list and the more people who enter the program, they will come to us in kindergarten much, much better prepared. And one of the things that came out in the statistic that I really didn't realize until the first time I heard it was that this so impacts our exceptional children's population, that if we can get to them early, we can hopefully decrease the number of students who are served in exceptional children's programs. So there's a lot to be said for early education, and it's just appalling to me that 75% of these kids come from homes with 0 income. I don't know how they live. I don't know how. It's just a pitiful situation. So I'm delighted that we can serve those kids and put them into an environment where they can begin learning. Because if there's no income at home, I'm sure what the stimulus that they're getting at home is very, very limited. So kudos to you and Vicki for putting this together and for managing the program. And for Smart Start, for giving us some additional monies and slots.
I'd like to say a special thank you to Vicki and to Helena for taking the lead on this early childhood initiative and spreading the word about how important those first 2,000 days, that there's a real urgency that people pay attention when funding is in the discussion, that in the future we'll save on special education, we'll save on just general remediation if children have that start during those first 2,000 days before they start kindergarten. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I would like to recognize Mike LaBrose, our county commissioner. Mike, we truly appreciate all that you do for our schools and through the other work that you do on the county commission. So thank you very much, and thank you for being here tonight. Next, we have Dr. Trish Johnson, Associate Superintendent for Human Resource Services.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Stone, I have 3 items on the agenda for your attention this evening. Exhibit 2 includes personnel items that are somewhat usual and somewhat customary. If you'll notice one of those names on there, that's not usual for me, but and it's presented for your information only. Exhibit 3 includes usual and customary personnel items that require action. I respectfully recommend approval of these items as they have been presented to you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the usual and customary personnel matters as has been presented.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Then Exhibit 4 includes student transfer requests since your last board meeting. Since the last board meeting, we had 14 requests for student transfers. Of the 14 requests, all 14 meet established board criteria. I think it's pretty interesting to point out to you that of the 14, 10 or 11 of them are already attending. So they're not new transfers, they're students who've probably moved to another location and they're requesting to stay in their current school. So that puts a different perspective on it. If approved this evening, that brings our total transfer requests for the year to 644. I respectfully request approval of those transfers as they've been presented.
Do I hear a motion we approve the 2015-2016 student transfers as Dr. Johnson has presented them?
I move that we approve the 2015-16 student transfers as presented.
Second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. We know that you have a big hole to fill there in your department, so.
We just like to publicly say we appreciate all that Pat Mitchell has done.
She has done a wonderful job. Pat Mitchell has been with the school system for a long time and has done a fantastic job.
And will be missed.
Absolutely. Next, Dr. Jeff Church, Associate Superintendent for Auxiliary Services.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Stone, I have 2 items for your action tonight. Exhibit 5 are bids for the High Brighton A-Wing Science Classroom roof. Ballard Roofing of Maiden, North Carolina was the low bidder at $35,300. I respectfully request acceptance of these bids.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the roofing bid from Ballard Roofing as it's been presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? Comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And that motion passes.
Thank you. And Exhibit 6 is a lottery application for the funding of that project. I respectfully request approval of the lottery application.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the lottery application for the roof replacement at High Brighton High School.
Second the motion.
And a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Church.
Thank you.
Next, our Finance Director, Mr. David Johnson, and we truly appreciate the good job you do in the department and the good audit report we've had tonight.
I work with pretty good staff, but I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, board members, and Dr. Stone, I have 2 amendments tonight. The first one is for the State Public School Fund. It's a reduction for charter schools and for the North Carolina virtual public schools. It also includes initial allotments for school resource officers, child and family support teams, high school learning earned, and school technology. The second one is for a federal grant fund. It's for changes to the Title I program and initial allotments of the Title III program. If approved tonight, it'll bring the total budget for Caldwell County Schools to $114,300,341.78.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the budget amendments to the State Public School Fund and the Federal Grant Fund as presented.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Stone,
Yep.
Dr. Stone, I'm sorry.
Thank you, all right.
You have some announcements for us?
Couple, as you know, Wednesday we are celebrating Veterans Day. Many of our schools are already doing that, as you mentioned earlier, but tomorrow, if anyone is not busy, at 9 o'clock, Gamewell Middle will have a veterans ceremony. 9 o'clock, Hudson Middle will have a veterans ceremony. At 9:30, Happy Valley, and at 10:45, South. And then there are events on Wednesday when the school district is out. I know Lenore's having one. I think Sawmills is having one tomorrow. And I think Granite Falls is something planned on tomorrow. Granite Falls is tomorrow inside, I hope. So a lot going on. And also on Friday, we have the pleasure of presenting to the county commissioners our 5-year strategic plan, and we'll be talking about some of the long-range projects that Caldwell County Schools is undertaking. And so we'll be having a chance to see Mike and his colleagues again on Friday at 9 o'clock. You board members are certainly invited to hear Jeff and I do that presentation. I believe it's at 9:15. And we appreciate the county commissioners for giving us that opportunity to come and to to let them know what we're doing. As I understand, they're in the throes of also writing their long-range plans too. So we get to go first, so we'll get to impress them with our plan. Oh, and by the way, last week we also inducted 95 of our students into the CTE Honor Roll, and that's Honor Society, and that's quite an honor to have that many young men and women who are taking what you and I call vocational courses and who are sticking with it and who are taking it in a track. So those 95 young men and women should be congratulated, and we do.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. Next item on the agenda is a report from the North Carolina School Board's Fall Law Conference. I think we all are quite aware that times are changing, and we need to keep up with that, and this is always a wonderful conference to go to. So what we have decided to do here, Teresa and Dottie and myself, along with Dr. Stone, were able to go. And we had that on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I'm going to turn it over now to Mrs. Teresa Branch, who's going to report on some of the events of Wednesday.
Okay. There were 4 sessions on Wednesday. The first, legal issues and recent developments, primarily related to bullying. And I think I can say Caldwell County Schools is already on top of this issue, the Safety Summit at the beginning of the school year. The second topic was community use of school grounds, and I think the message was to have a balance between sharing space and having policies and procedures to make sure that we're addressing the liability issues. And I think Dr. Church does a great job in taking the lead on that as well. The third session was board's role in personnel matters. And basically, it's the board's job to hire the superintendent, but to approve other recommendations that come to us. But ultimately, the responsibility rests with the board. But obviously, the board's not going to be interviewing for any position other than the superintendent. So the superintendent ensures that excellent principals are in place, excellent directors are in place to make sure that the recommendations that come to us are quality folks that we want to have be a part of Caldwell County Schools. And the last session on Wednesday was quite interesting. It was about personality tests to evaluate and screen employees. Tricia's eyes are getting like this right now. And they were sharing with us case after case that had landed in court because of these personality tests that were being used by businesses, agencies, and it was really surprising to me how much of that has happened and is happening. and all the legal woes that go with that. But those were the topics on Wednesday, and it was very interesting. Excellent attorneys and others who presented great information.
And on Thursday, well, we were there each day, but Dottie's going to report on the sessions from Thursday. So, Mrs. Darcy.
I guess that got up there. One of the interesting sessions on Thursday had to do with something that's becoming more and more popular through social media technology, and that's what we call crowdsourcing. You've probably seen Donors Choose, GoFundMe, things like this. And some of our teachers are doing this, and what they addressed was the fact that we probably need to have some policies on this, because it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong, but administrators need to know if they have a teacher who is seeking to get funding for a particular project, what to do if it's not completely funded or they get more money than they need. What do you do with the excess? So this is an issue that we feel like we probably need to look into with, they refer us to our board attorney on numerous issues, and I'm sure Mr. Blair is used to that. So that's something that we probably are going to need to look at, because it is becoming a more and more popular way to do things. Another session had to do with board members remaining impartial when it comes to hearing personnel matters. And from time to time, things happen in the schools. People may disagree about something and come to the board for a resolution. And one of the most important things that we have to do is not be biased one way or the other. And so one of the things that board members have to be aware of, if you know, Mrs. Smith comes up to you in the grocery store and says, I want to tell you what's been going on with so-and-so and so-and-so, and then 2 weeks later we have to have a hearing on that subject, then you might have to recuse yourself. And so it's very important to strike the balance between being open to comment and getting involved in an issue which may later come before the board. And one thing that I learned that was new is not only may we ask to be recused, but if the board knows that, you know, so-and-so's son is best friends with your kid and she's over at your house all the time, we might have to ask you to be recused, so that actually the board may do this if you don't volunteer to do it yourself. There was an interesting session on immigration law, and I don't think we have as much of this as perhaps some other areas in the country. I think we talked about one particular individual that we knew of.
This is related to staff who want to teach, or
right,
not students.
people who want to come, and there are 3 different kinds of visas that people can actually get who are interested in coming to this country to teach, and in many cases their ultimate desire is to be here permanently. But what they talked about was what's called a J1 visa, which is the one that has the least complications for the school system. I see Dr. Johnson nodding her head, because this is usually organizations that actively recruit teachers to come to this country to teach. Sometimes it's very specialized subjects, for instance, Japanese or something like this. And, you know, we'd have a heck of a time finding anybody around here to teach Japanese were we to offer that in our high schools and so forth. So, you know, there are groups out there that do this, that bear both the cost and the responsibility, which does make a big difference. Again, this is a 3-year visa, so one of the downsides is it is for a shorter period of time. An H-1B visa is for 3 years and can be extended for another 3, and then the green card, which is probably the one that we hear the most about, the biggest thing about the green card is we've got to show that there's nobody around here that can do that job. And it takes about a year to apply for that. It costs the school system about $4,000. And one of the points that they made very clear to us, sometimes people with a strong desire to come to this country will come and they'll say, if you'll just hire me, I'll give you the $4,000, and that is against the law. We cannot do that. We have to pay the $4,000. So this is something that I'm sure Dr. Johnson is familiar with, and I don't think we deal with it a lot, but and thank goodness. The next one, one of Mr. Blair's favorite subjects is copyright law. And they made a great point of mentioning to us about the people who are now making a living surfing the internet, scrounging around, jumping out from behind bushes, trying to find any possible incidents that somebody has used something that is copyrighted. It's beginning to be more and more of a problem, and one of the things that they suggested that we do is actually to have an employee register as an agent for our school system with the U.S. Copyright Office. And then that person could help with some training with our staff and so forth to make sure that people understand, because I don't know if I think, did you get it, Mr. Blair, what was it, 28-page document that spelled out the copyright laws? It is incredibly complex, and there are so many shades of gray in this that it is very, very difficult to sort it all out. So that may be something that we may want to think about is, and I don't know what lucky person might get this job, but I see some people shaking their heads, not me, not me. But it is, as Teresa said, a very, very valuable way for us to get more information on these issues that do come up in our schools from time to time.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Darcy. Appreciate that. Just to report on a few of the sessions from Friday. One of them dealt with student records in the digital classroom, and we're all very familiar with the Family Education Right and Privacy Act, which generally is referred to as FERPA, protects as confidential education records and personally identifiable information. National and state trends are constantly changing, so we must be diligent in maintaining our records. And it was suggested, and certainly, we're on top of this, and we do these things, but we need to develop, or they said that school systems need to make sure they have a privacy program with a series of best practices for online educational services and cloud computing. They also suggested that training and to the staff and also administrators. But in each of those cases, we do a good job with that. Another session dealt with public records, and it's the responsibility of any public agency to provide records when they are requested. And those are to be given in a timely manner as soon as possible. And if there's a charge, it must be whatever the cost is of photocopying or whatever means of that it might be. Exceptions are, of course, confidential records and those not considered as being for the public. It is generally not the responsibility to create records. It is not the responsibility to create records from data, minutes, or other collections. In other words, what that basically that is saying, it is not our responsibility to compile and collect and sort through data to compile information. We can provide information, but it's not our responsibility to compile all of those things. And the last section I'm going to mention is bad behavior gone viral. When does the First Amendment protect students' online activity? Well, if you start talking about students' rights of voicing their opinion, I guess the landmark case goes back to 1969 in Des Moines, Iowa, the Tinker case, Tinker versus the school board of Des Moines, Iowa. And in that particular case, the Tinkers, brother and sister, and also a friend, were wearing armbands, and that's 1969. Obviously, they were protesting the Vietnam War, and so they were wearing those to school. And the question was, do they have the right to do that? And this situation wound up going all the way to the Supreme Court, and it was basically deemed that if it was did not disrupt the normal routine of school, then it would be allowed. But of course, we know in this day and time, the computer has changed a lot. You know, in 1969, they did not have iPads, iPhones, internet, and those kinds of things, so a lot has changed in that period of time. In summary, threats of violence are considered disruptive, while mocking or even vulgarity may not be if a student does this online. So when can schools discipline students for online posts? When there is a belief that a substantial disruption could occur. When there is bullying or harassment. When there is a threat of violence to anyone, then that is also another circumstance and situation. And when students violated the accepted use policy. In other words, if they're using school equipment to do this versus using their own equipment. And also the other situation is the code of conduct. If they're not supposed to be using their mobile, their iPhones in class, then that would be a situation in which there would be issue as far as the law is concerned. So these are some of the things that we pick up at these meetings, and this is just a small bit. This is an excellent conference. Always topics that are right on point of what's going on in our society today, and it's imperative that we go. It's imperative that we keep up with these things, and it was a great opportunity to catch up on some of those things and learn about what's new in the in law today. So the law conference is always great. Okay, we'll move on, and the next item on the agenda, our board needs to go into closed session. Do I hear a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to general statutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3
Second.
and A5.
Second.
Okay, any comments, any questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And motion passes. We will be going into closed session, and when we return, we very possibly will have an action item related to possible litigation. If you choose to stay, but
Jeff, if you will join us, and then as soon as Jeff comes out, Libby, if you will join us in closed session.